Everyone's like, what? I asked you to do some homework last night, this morning. Anybody do that? Anybody remember? What was the homework you saying? I'm joking.
He's the teacher, right? He's the teacher.
Okay. Anybody have any? Yes, please.
Oh, what the homework was, you mean? To think about perspective?
No, did you do it? Did you?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
How did it go?
Went pretty well.
And to think about, you were saying?
Oh, about perspective, like when you're talking about the pen last night. To think about that.
Right, different views,
Right.
like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did it go?
No, it went well.
Yeah, did anything change for you or shift or any other insights?
I think, maybe this is a personal thing, but sometimes I tend to worry too much about the value of an object, like I'm going to damage it in some way, so it's a good perspective to try to somewhat, I don't know, devalue or value it less, to see it, it's just an object rather than...
Right, right. Yeah, helpful. That could be really helpful with possessions,
Right.
like that. How did it go? Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just trying to think of look at the perspective of all the changes at work and try to get the perspective of the people who are making those changes and why they have to do that.
Right.
And I have to have a much better day at work. I was a lot calmer,
Okay.
a lot more. I was very peaceful today.
Great.
So it did help.
Right. I mean, it takes effort.
Yes.
But, Doug's talking about he'd had some stresses in his workplace of transitions, which is happening with many businesses now.
Yeah.
And it's a very insecure time for people working there. Am I going to have a job? Am I going to be laid off? But did you ever think of the people who make the decisions? Like they're also struggling.
Yeah.
So, people don't usually want to fire people, It's not really, so just giving some perspective on them tends to lessen your anxiety. That's what we're talking about, is anxiety, depression. So how to open up your perspective instead of hanging on like that. Some of the exercises. Yeah, that's very helpful. So thank you for doing your, thank you, back there.
Yeah.
So what happens is, if you forgot, how many people forgot? Okay? It's really common, okay? So if you forgot, don't get down on yourself about it. You just go, okay, so I need to figure out a way, and I'm going to be more mindful tonight and tomorrow, and so you have to get creative with yourself and be honest with yourself. Because we forget a lot of things. Once you turn 50, right, you can't remember anything, basically. That's what it's like. That's the reality. So this is just natural. This is just natural stuff. So here's some stuff, I find some interesting things in magazines. And Tricycle, I've got to say, I was never a fan. When it first came out, it was like, some of us Buddhist snobs would it was like pop dharma. They had an article about LSD, and we didn't, but anyway, now there's this other publisher, I met him once in New York, and it's really become more of a quality. I really like what he's doing with the magazine. I think it's really some quality articles in here and things like that. It's quite a nice magazine like that. So there's some good Buddhist magazines. We have our mandala from our organization, great. Buddha Dharma, which is a branch of Shambhala Sun magazine. Those are great magazines from the Shambhala tradition, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche's organization. Great magazines, and Tricycle, a little bit more popular on the East Coast, I think. But in talking about some of this, in a sense, I think we have to kind of forget about being happy. If we want to talk about forget, we're very attached to being happy. And we're constantly, in this present moment, seeking happiness over there, and I've missed here. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in relationship to anxiety and depression. Okay, but I think now that we're all here, let's just sit comfortably. Again, finding that comfortable posture. Again, with the spine as extended as possible. You may lightly close your eyes. Slowly allow yourself to settle here in this room, just letting go all the activities of your day, your week. This is your time now. Just reflect on your purpose for being here. Because there are many other things we could be doing this evening. And just really rejoice at yourself for coming here tonight, making this time. Really wise thing to do. Get some Dharma teachings. And set a positive intention for this time. And if it's possible to include the idea of benefiting others, along with your own intention if it's different from that. See if you can expand beyond your own boundaries. Think about if we reach Buddhahood, if we become an enlightened being, that's a means to the goal of benefiting others fully. Just think if you might get some information tonight that may help further you along that path. Set a positive intention right now for this time. So bring your awareness to your breath. Just a normal, natural breath. It's a great jumping off point to always bring the mind back to the breath. Or to start a meditation, just focus, it quiets the mind. And if you missed an opportunity this morning, or sometime today, let's just relish in all the goodness of our lives. You can reflect on things like experiencing relatively clean air and water that we take for granted nearly every day. We have access to that every day, fortunately. You might relish in your personal belongings, a warm house, warm bed to sleep in every night, nice clothes, good food, easy markets, you have a job that you like, you have a supportive family and a good partner, leading a somewhat fulfilling life. What about your good qualities? Take a moment, get creative, and explore the goodness of your life. Only the goodness of your life right now. When the other thoughts come in, simply put them to the side, let go, and return, focusing on your good qualities and really appreciating all the goodness, all of what you have created for yourself. So a great counter to depression is appreciating your human life. You spend the mind circling obsessively in a sinking mind, very focused on itself, very focused on the negativities of itself. So appreciating your human life is an antidote to depression. So you could consider for a moment, if you want to go a bit deeper, what would it be like to live in Syria right now? And really imagine, imagine if you were a man or woman like yourself, but if you woke up in the morning and you were in Syria, in your life as a Syrian, living in one of the more challenged places of Syria right now, and really put your mind into that being. What would your life be like? What do you do all day? What do you think about? How do you get food? What's your home like? Be that person as much as you can. So come back to your life right now. And just notice anything that arises in your mind. So please relax. Slowly open your eyes. Anything you notice? Any comments?
Well, I was thinking about being in Syria, I felt very closed in. Very, like, I wanted to, like, just hide,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and, you know, I feel like I would be skittish with any sound I heard.
Mm-hmm.
But when you said focus back on your life here, then I felt like, here I'm safe. I don't have to worry about physical harm happening to me
Mhm.
every second, or to my friends, to my family. I don't have to worry about them, you know, being blown up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, felt lighter.
Mm. There's a sense of relief, isn't
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
It's a huge relief. I mean, the meditation is, you have to really try as much as you can to be that person in your mind, like really spend some time. And we kind of say, you know, this is a traditional meditation called Precious Human Rebirth. It's the beginning of the Lam Rim. Precious or perfect human rebirth. And the thing is, you have to start there because you have to have some self-worth to follow this path. This is the beginning. And we feel like caca about ourselves. Many Westerners are non-Tibetans, and so you have to start with some kind of healthy ground. This isn't a path for people that are mentally ill, I'll tell you that right now. It's not. Lama Yeshe always said that. You have to be relatively balanced to practice Dharma well. So we already feel lousy about ourselves for the most part, you know, I'm generalizing, but a lot of people really crippled with self-esteem issues, low self-esteem. And this is the counter for that, and that contributes to depression, so this is the antidote. You know, and so Michael, you were asking about meditations, this is yet another meditation. And what you can do is get a basic Lam Rim book and really read the part about Precious Human Rebirth. It's right in the beginning of the law, it's the first thing. And read it till you know it really well, and then there's 18 situations that make up a Precious Human Rebirth. There's 8 freedoms, 8 situations you're free from, and 10 things you have that you're endowed with. 10 endowments. 8 freedoms, 10 endowments make up a Precious Human Rebirth. So for instance, one of them is you're free from being an animal. So traditionally what you do is you meditate on what it's like to be a certain animal. You pick your pet or your... Now our pets are the peak of the animal realm. It's the very top of the triangle. You know, if you look at an iceberg, most of it's under the water. Just a little peak. It's like that. That's our domestic pets. Most of the animals live in the sea. And so you really have to analyze. Like you go, oh, my dog stays home all day sleeping in the sun, I have to go to work. You have to really look at your dog's life. How many of you have pets? Right? What's their life like? What's their life like? What would you say? Looks good to you? Looks better?
Yeah, it looks good. They get to sleep as much as they want.
Right, right. What if you slept 20 hours a day? Would you enjoy that? Seriously, do you think you'd enjoy it?
No.
I know some people go, well, maybe. I don't really, I mean, really, you have to check yourself. I can't say for you. I don't think you'd really enjoy it.
You can't go out, you know, or on your own. You can't go out.
Can't go out on your own. How many of your pets can go out on their own? Right? What would that be like? Here I am at the center and, you know, locked in, And when they feel like opening the door for me, I can go out. You know? That would be a drag. I wouldn't like that. You could see me going over to Sharon. Can I go out now, Sharon? You know, please? Okay. When do they get treats? Do any of your pets have access to treats just like that? Anytime they can go in the box and get treats? Right? Can you imagine if, you know, your house, the chocolate was allotted? There was like a machine that came down and like once every 3 days a little bar came out? That's it? That's your allotment? So you have to analyze yourself. You have to go in there and you go, wow, it's really, you know, look where dogs lick themselves. You want to do that? Look what they eat. I mean, let me put it this way. We have 2 cats at the center. Cat food. Wet cat food is disgusting. Oof. Right? How they have to go to the bathroom and, you know, I mean, there's so many things you think about. And that's just the domestic animals. I mean, the other animal realm, it's hunting, being hunted, killing, eating other animals. Sometimes they're vegetarian. And some of the vegetarian animals, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with how elephants die. It's tragic. It's a very sad, you know, they have like 6 rows of teeth. They're vegetarian. And elephants spend most of their day eating because they're huge. Wild elephants spend most of their day eating. I've seen 2 wild elephants in my life. Eating. Right? And they have many rows of teeth. And as they age, their teeth wear out. Right? So eventually they can't chew anymore. So they starve and they die and they collapse from weakness, and other animals feed on them before they're dead. That's how elephants die naturally, right? And other elephants try to protect them, and you know, but eventually it's just the natural order. So you have to go in and really analyze, what's that like? What's it like being a fish, or a whale, or a, you know, a little shrimp-like thing that's swallowed by a big whale? So, and then you come back and you go, what is the problem? What's the problem? Look what I have. Can you ever just appreciate, look at the good things? So when you looked at the good things, do you spend any time doing that? What we just did just a moment ago? Any of you do that daily?
This morning.
Great.
Yeah.
You did this
This
morning?
morning,
Thank you.
You try to. I mean, you kind of try and build your mind to do that, but someone had to tell you to do that. You didn't come up with it
Yes.
yourself.
So this is a perfect practice to do every morning when you're waking up. This is your snooze alarm practice. I said, instead of hitting the snooze, you get up, but you're just in bed. So relish the time. I love that time in bed, you know, before I get up. And even if the alarm goes off and you know I have to go to work and I have that terrible meeting today and I hate my boss, it doesn't matter. You wake up and be present with it, not with all your millions of lists, and is be present in the warm, cozy bed. How many of you have flannel sheets? No one?
Please will have
What's that?
fleece sheets.
Fleece, or you know, get some flannel sheets. Go to Costco. They're cheap there. But it's you know, I'm like the queen of coats. My sister bought me a pair of flannel sheets, and you know, oh my God, I can't be in Vermont. I mean, in Vermont they're on the bed 9 months a year. Okay, but in Boston's perfect place for flannel sheets. Anyway, you know, you got a comfortable bed. You don't need flannel sheets, but it's comfy. So be there with it. Relish in it. How wonderful. You made that for yourself. You created that. Nobody did that for you. You made that for yourself. This life and past lives. You created that for yourselves. You have a functioning body and mind. I know we all have issues, but basically if you're here, you have a functioning body and mind. Fantastic. You have interest to go to a Dharma center. These are amazing things. You had access to a decent public education. Many people in the world know. You have transportation, some of you, to get here. Many things. We live in, well, I can't even say this anymore right now, but we live in a place that generally has a pretty good infrastructure, but not in the winter in these places. Oh my God, I almost got swallowed by a pothole today. Unbelievable. Me and the entire car almost went right in, you know, it was like, wow, you know. Sinkhole, you know. But basically we have decent, you know, people, so many things. You know, I love you go to the markets, all this beautiful food. Sometimes when I come back, when I was living in Asia for a long time in Nepal, India and Nepal, before they had these, anyway, in Nepal, I was on retreat for a long time there, up in the mountains, and I ran out of toothpaste. Anyway, I was at the market and I was on my way down back to Kathmandu, needed toothpaste. So at the very primitive mountain store, I asked for toothpaste to go into the place. Well, they had toothpaste, they had one tube in the entire store. So the guy just handed, it could have been there for 8 years, that tube, I think it was. Right? I tried to get it out of the tube, it was like cement for my teeth. But, so you go into, what is it, CVS, the multiplicity of options in the toothpaste aisle. It nearly leveled me one time when I came back from several years in Asia, and I went down that toothpaste aisle, and I almost lost it. It was too much. Too much. But at least we have the options, right? So you can have, the plaque-free and the whitening and the this one and the that one and, But so there's many, but it's nice we do have choices of many nice things we can choose from. And then what about your good qualities? For those of you that suffer from depression, what about your good qualities? How does that work for you? Can you consider that?
I often feel this small.
And
you have to really get
right,
a
and you're not,
magnifying glass to
and
see
because you're not familiar perhaps with recognizing your good qualities and relishing in them and reminding yourself about them. Okay, because depression does otherwise. And that's depression's technique. Depression's a delusion in your mind. It's not the nature of your mind, again. It's simply something that comes in from previous moments of that, and you have to do your work to create other imprints. And I'm not depression. I'm better than depression. The depression is temporary. There was a time before I was depressed. You have to remember back there if it's a chronic depression of many years. Now, occasionally, we're talking about meditation versus medication on one level. So, this is all through meditation. You have to familiarize yourself, remind yourself. I'm giving you some easy techniques to do that are somewhat meditative, and then you have to do a little bit deeper, like a little bit deeper meditation on precious human rebirth. Traditionally, you can go through the 18 situations and consider, what's it like to be free of that? What's it like to be free of that? Endowments. What's it, the fact that we came back to a civilization that a Buddha existed. And you spend some time thinking about what would it be like in the world, no Buddha, no Shakyamuni Buddha, no Prince Siddhartha who decided at the age of 27, I'm kind of dissatisfied with this, all this suffering, this is horrible, I'm gonna figure out an end to this. And he goes off for 7 years, 8 years, to figure out, and then if that hadn't happened, there would be no Kurukulla Center now. No teaching. I wouldn't be teaching tonight on anxiety and depression. I wouldn't be a nun. I wouldn't be a Buddhist nun. And you go through many, many things. None of you would be connected to this center. You might not even know each other. We might not know each other. Like that. No Buddhist centers in the States or in anywhere on the planet, because there would be no Buddha, no enlightened being like that. So imagine, so you spend some time really quietly, 10 minutes in your mind, 20 minutes, however, from every angle to imagine, oh, what would that be? Oh yeah, there'd be no Geshe Langri wouldn't be here. Wouldn't be here. He probably won't be a Buddhist monk. He might be in Tibet working fields. Working in the fields. Farmer, something like that. So you have to come from every angle in it. That's analytical meditation, you analyze. You really have to analyze. Went to a teaching in October in New York with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Some of you were there, right? His Holiness said at one point, you have to analyze. Remember, he was really getting it. He said, you have to analyze if you want to work with your mind and become a Buddha. You have to check it out. We check stuff out. We just check the wrong things out. I've seen people analyze a TV listing to figure out when's a show. This is what we analyze. This is what I've seen health nuts obsessed about labeling on food. They analyze. Oh my God, it's got how many grams? Oh no, this one has 2 grams. This has 4 grams. I've seen that. That's you're analyzing. You're checking it out. That's okay for your health. You do that. What about your mind? You have to really analyze to make progress, and it takes effort. And we're not really familiar with how we analyze on the path. So I'm just giving you some examples. Okay, Buddha lived, a Buddha taught. Okay, we have the Buddha lived, the Buddha taught. The teachings are furthered. Okay, Buddha taught. Maitreya Buddha Maitreya, do we have a mic? Let's see, Maitreya Buddha. You've got a Maitreya here. Here we go.
Top right.
Yeah, see sitting? See the one seated on the throne? European fashion, like in a chair? Right here? Okay? That's Maitreya Buddha. He represents loving kindness. He's a future Buddha. He comes after Shakyamuni Buddha. Many, many countless eons in the future. He will come. Right? He will come at a time when we're all comfortable sitting cross-legged, right? Okay? He sits like that on the throne. He's got a little stoop on his crown. That's how you know it's him. He's very special. Okay? He doesn't teach Tantra, that Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha, the whole path right now, delivered. Sutra and Tantra, everything. The quickest path, Tantra. Maitreya Buddha won't teach that when he manifests. So you could get enlightened, but it will take you a really, 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 really long time. Right now, you have every perfect situation. So these are just ways, I'm just giving you techniques that get in there and start chip away at the mind that obsessively sits looking in on itself in depression and tells itself, I'm a depressed person, I'm just depressed, I'm not gonna get over this. It's not possible. It's not really much value in my life, or I just suffer from this. Like you're satisfied that for the rest of your time you would just suffer like this. That's your choice. It's your choice. So, just going on a little bit more, I like these. So, there was a great master, tong-len who came out with a text, wrote a text that is quite famous called the 37 Practices of the Bodhisattva. The 37 Practices of a Bodhisattva. Master Tong-len Sangpo. And there's a couple of verses, I wanted to kind of bring in a little bit. We've talked a little bit about bodhisattvas, people that show up for other people constantly, every moment they breathe. That's what they're doing, always thinking of others. Anyway, that's a counteraction to depression and anxiety. And I don't know if any of you, can you notice, maybe today you had some anxiety or depression, yesterday, what were you thinking about? What were you thinking about? Probably your situation is, I'm a little nervous about my job and how I'm going to feel in the space. And I'm not picking on you, it's about me, again. Fearful about me. A little bit, your experience today. You were having a little...
It's anxiety about a relationship that you feel will never come right, and you're not defined without the relationship, and it starts to feed upon itself, and so you kind of have to stop. And that's where saying you can work on your own mind, but the anxiety grows. And like you said, it's about me, it's about how I will be perceived. How
I'll be perceived, my reputation, my relationship, I need this relationship, my identity's caught up in it. Again, so you have to kind of really catch that a lot of it is circling in the self-absorption. Can you turn it? Can you just think for a moment, what about this person? What about that person? Turn it out and just see, there's many exercises, like you have to get creative with how you can turn it out. If you think about your coworkers, for instance, it sometimes starts to lighten up my own scene. And then you say, well, what can I do for them? I'm doing what I can do. And then it starts to dissolve.
Today, I was really thinking more about that. It's just like I'm transferring to a new department, although I'm just doing exactly the same job, just in a new department, and I'll still be dealing with them. And I was just like, I think I'm going to be okay. Don't worry about it. You want to talk with me. I can listen. And that's what I was there. A lot of listening today.
Yes. And it's lighter, isn't it? Yeah, it's much lighter to get yourself out of that experience. This relationship thing, you ask yourself, what can you do about it? Are you doing that compassionately, kindly, communicating, whatever, and you can't change the other person? And sometimes you just have to let go. And also figuring out, this isn't my identity. I'm whole here. How much power do you want to give the relationship to sort all of you, to make sure that I'm okay because of this? Because if you're not okay because of this, you're not really okay. So you want to just work on this, and then it doesn't matter if you're in a relationship or not. Relationship's working or not. I mean, you wish the other person well. You don't want to end things nastily. There's no point in that. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. Definitely, you try. Just definitely give it your best shot. Making sure you're coming from a good place and communicating and figuring out what's my intention. And have I communicated that? Have I expressed myself clearly? Do I listen to them when they're talking? Am I really clear about what they want? It's a two-way street there. So Bodhisattva, clear. So Master told my son, I want to read a couple of these verses, okay? Just focus on this for a minute. The happiness of the three worlds disappears in a moment, like a dewdrop on a blade of grass. The highest level of freedom is one that never changes. Aim for this. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. Okay, I'll read that one more time. The happiness of the three worlds disappears in a moment, like a dewdrop on a blade of grass. The highest level of freedom is one that never changes. Aim for this. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. So the highest level of freedom, when you reach nirvana and you're a highly realized being, that won't change anymore. You won't fall back into negativity and suffering. Nirvana is a permanent cessation of all your mental afflictions. Can you imagine? That's nirvana. It's not enlightenment yet. You still have subtle obscurations, but a permanent cessation of all of your mental afflictions. You don't fall back after you reach there. That would be great. Talk about peace and freedom. Fantastic. So, what happens though about happiness in talking about this? So, the happiness you feel, and I like when it says this, here it says the pursuit of happiness for its own sake is a fool's errand. Okay? We have this idea, and a lot of us, I want to be happy. Everybody wants that, basically. It's a basic human condition to want happiness and to avoid suffering. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Just we have to be realistic about it. And how we go about getting our happiness, how much importance we place on that happiness. Okay? So the happiness you feel when you get something that you have always wanted typically lasts about 3 days. Okay? Think about it. Think about it. And we're really talking in here about like a true happiness. Okay? And a lot of that's related to like a temporal happiness. Okay? Because when you really get into this deeper happiness, you know, it's kind of connected with pure unconditional love and things. But generally, when you get something you've always wanted, think about it. What's something you've always wanted that you got? Anybody? Anything?
I got to be promoted to the level I thought I would never get to, and I got there.
Right.
And then a few days later, I was like, well, what next? It was a very big letdown because I was thinking, this haven't changed me. I still have the problems I had before. At work, I'm still the same, being treated the same, even though I have this new title.
Mm-hmm.
And that took me a lot.
Yeah, and there's kind of a like a wah wah, you know, and it's a big wah wah, you know, because you kind of, you know, you go in for this thing. I'm talking about something you've always wanted. This is a big thing. Great example, right? Great example. Sometimes the mind's never satisfied, right? There's always, what else? What other kinds of things? It could be a thing. What kinds of
Even weight loss, you know, finally, I'm 25 pounds lighter, I'll be happy then, but then it's,
yeah.
1 pound comes back. And
Yeah, it's just like, and then it's maintaining that. Like, can I maintain it? Like, it was all fun when you're doing it, and then you kind of get, and then when people that have lost weight and they get to a place where they're 10 pounds within their goal, let's say, that is the hardest 10 pounds to take off. And they struggle, you know, and they're within 2 pounds, and then they finally get there, and maintaining it is just a bear, especially as you get older. You know, the nature of the older body is to gain weight. It's just kind of a natural thing. So it's interesting. So, you know, you get there and then it's like, am I really happy now? You know, now it's like I can't eat that. Oh, there's that and that, you know, and oh, I put on a pound. That, you know, yeah.
I can imagine retirement too. You know, oh, it's to be just wonderful, but then.
Right. I know one guy that when he retired, his wife from a botched surgery some years before lost a leg in a mistake. It was a mistaken diagnosis, and they a blood clot, and they took her leg off, and it was a mistake, and so they got $750,000 for that when they sued. So he retired with a lot of money, and he was one person I met who was really, really happy in retirement because he hated his job, you know. But then a few years later, his wife died. So you know what I mean? It's like, it's just endless, you know, when you're going after this thing, okay? So let me read on a little bit. The quest for happiness is a continuation of the traditional view of spiritual practice, a way to transcend the vicissitudes of the human condition. That's what we try to do in our happiness. I want to kind of transcend the ordinary experience I have, my ordinary kind of drudgery, okay? But this paradise or heaven that you're looking for, okay? This eternal bliss, and like, this is what we're going for. And it's basically kind of an escapist feeling. Escapist reality that you're going after. Like it's something separate out there. And when my boss gets fired, and when I finally get the new car, and when I get the house, when I get the kitchen redone, it's never ending. In the desire realm, it never finishes. That's the nature of the desire realm. That's the realm we live in, the desire realm. Can you imagine? Well, look around you. I want, I need, I have to have, you know, everything is like bombarded and, you know. So, if you take a moment, you think about what are you seeking in your practice. Okay, we talked a little bit about practice yesterday and having a balance. What are our expectations? What are you seeking in your practice? It is a kind of transcendence, I think. You know, it could be God, if some people identify with God. Bliss, infinite light. You know, what does it all mean? Okay? So there were some other interesting things about, here he goes on to say, forget about being happy. Put it right out of your mind. Okay? Because if you think of freedom as a state, you're in effect you're looking for something separate, like a kind of heaven. Could you think of freedom as a way of experiencing life itself? A continuous flow in which you meet what arises in your experience, you open to it, and you do what needs to be done to the best of your ability, and then receive the result. What do you think of that? I'll read that again. Instead, can you think of freedom as a way of experiencing life itself? A continuous flow in which you meet what arises in your experience, you open to it, and you do what needs to be done to the best of your ability, and receive the result. And you do this over and over again. Okay? A freedom that never changes, freedom like that never changes, then becomes the constant exercise of everything you know and understand. It's a way you engage in life. Okay, it's not something that sets you apart from life. You see? It's a way you engage with life. And when you think about it, you think about like prisoners and things, but how they practice, because they're stuck in this thing, but somehow they can gain some realization. So are you engaged? So it's something, I feel like that these are things that totally counter anxiety and depression. Because anxiety and depression is often fostered by what I don't have yet, what I need, what I'm going after. Competitiveness in anxiety's thing, you know, and fear of losing what I have, fear of being harmed, because I'm not presently engaged right now in this, in whatever's opening. If somebody's attacking you, and that can be frightening, you know, but it's an experience that's unfolding for you, you know, and obviously it's based on what sort of attack. Somebody's coming at you with a knife, you're going to try to use your practical knowledge and your wisdom and compassion to try to get out of the way, to try to call for help, to try to talk the person down. I mean, there's certain things you might have to call up initially, and then later, let's say, when you notice adrenaline running through you, but let's say the person's been caught, they're held, or they drop the knife and they go, I don't know what I was thinking, and you notice adrenaline coursing through your body, and you're like, oh my God, I'm terrified. I'm terrified they will do it again, or I'll be in a situation like that again. But what about just opening to the experience? Understanding it comes from my past karma that created that, and just observing what arises in my mind. Being with it fully. I'm talking about after that, when the fear arises that causes more anxiety. And sometimes just being there with the anxiety or depression that arises. Okay? Because this is a course of suffering. This is how everything is experienced in. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Okay? So, here's a couple other things. Life is tough. But when you see and accept what is actually happening, even if it's very difficult or painful, mind and body relax. Okay? There's an exquisite quality that comes from just experiencing what arises with no separation between awareness and experience. You know, I know this takes time to cultivate, but it's just something to think about, to bring into your everyday life sometimes when you're separating yourself from others, in just normal anxieties. Okay? Some people would call that freedom, that living not separate from the experience, as joy. It's not a giddy or it's not an excited joy. It's a deep and quiet, a joy that in some sense is always there, waiting for you, but usually touched only when some challenge, pain, or tragedy leaves you with no other option but to open and accept what's happening in your life. Have you had that happen to you?
I actually had it, but it was, so, relationship a mess, life just really, I had to move out and things like that just to keep my sanity, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found this center, and I had a huge guilt, because how can I be happy with having messed up so badly? But one day when I was walking back to my apartment, I just felt joy. It was just this, and I felt so guilty about it.
Mm.
But that moment will stay with me, I think, hope forever. But it was just this, I had to come home, which I don't want
Right.
to sound lofty.
No, but if you just stay with the, I had come home and I had the joy, you know, then we can let the guilt go. Guilt's another obsessive negative circling of the mind. It's another delusion. Okay? So guilt's just a pattern of like, I'm not allowed to experience joy, I'm not allowed to feel good, and if I feel like I messed something up and I made mistakes, I'm not allowed to experience any happiness. Well, we all make mistakes. Okay? Life is tough, it says here. Life is tough. That's part of that. Okay? We are living in samsara. We are living in this state that's broken. Birth, old age, sickness, death. It's like that. It's painful. Okay, I'll put it this way. It's painful, right? But do you have to suffer?
No.
See, it's different. It's painful. You can wake up and be like, I'm in pain, but I met people in pain, and they're not suffering. It's about their attitude. They're about their attitude. I met this, when I did this AIDS hospice work for a few years in San Francisco. It was really, really intense, amazing, amazing, rewarding work. And I was visiting I was teamed up, they would team you like emotional support counselors with different clients for a couple of years. And my guy was in the hospital, one guy I was with for a couple of years, and somebody brought me, they wanted me to see this other guy on the floor. And this was during the peak of the AIDS epidemic, so sometimes you're in a hospital ward and everybody's got AIDS and is dying of AIDS in every room, and it was really, really depressing. And I went to this room, and the guy was, they said he wanted me to come in, or I don't know what it was, and he should have been dead. He should have died like 3 weeks before that. We don't know why he was hanging on. He was ravaged by AIDS. He was blind at this point, and just, you know, body not working anymore at all. And I came in the room, and the room was glowing, like when Lama Zopa Rinpoche's mother died in India. We were there, and there was like, you know, nice energy in the room, incredibly nice energy in the room. And I kind of walked in and was like, whoa. You know, you think somebody, it's like, you know, and I was like, wow, what is that? You know, and I went over to him on the bed, he couldn't see, he was like a rail, you know. And I took his hands, I remember, and he said, we would talk for a little bit, and then he said to me, and he was so happy, he was so blissful, this guy. It was like light energy. I couldn't believe it, you know, I thought I want to die like this. It's total light being, And he said to me, I said something like, can you tell me like what you're experiencing? He said, I'm so grateful I got this disease because if I hadn't gotten it, I never would have learned how to love. And he was totally there in that experience. Wasn't separate from it. Like, ravaged body, he was on some pain meds, but not, he was definitely experiencing some pain. No suffering. He was just like lit up. From, So it's something to think about. It's different pain versus, so when do we separate ourselves from some kind of joyful, like you just said? What kind of tragedy opens up, it breaks your heart open in a way you never had it open before?
Death.
Yeah. Have you experienced that yourself when?
Yes, I had a baby. Just didn't wake up.
Oh, I'm sorry. How long ago?
Just the 3-year anniversary.
You just passed the 3-year anniversary. So sorry. How old was the baby?
He was 11 weeks.
11 weeks.
But, people would say, oh, you're so strong, or you're so, I was very, totally aware, but also, there was nothing I could do. Mm-hmm. And I had totally been there for his life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Those moments also, when they talk about infinity between 2 seconds, there's just so much that's inexplicable. The gravity and, I don't know, I think it's something divine to, take a point and be there and know, but
And also
somehow still be functional or just there.
Yeah. And also I think to give him those 11 weeks, as his mom and the care you gave him, And also there's, one lama said, we had one of the AIDS patients, a lot of them committed suicide. They had planned like this, and so one of my friends, as a Buddhist, I think the guy she was with said he wanted to do this, and what did she think? And she said she couldn't participate, but he eventually killed himself. Took pills and had it all arranged, and before it got really bad. And we can understand why people did that, but we as Buddhists didn't really want to do that. And she asked the Lama about him. She just said he was a really good person. And the Lama said he might need to come back, and he couldn't say for sure, but he said he might come back and die very young to just finish out what he hadn't finished. And unfortunately what it does is it impacts somebody else's life, that they're connected to, like that. And maybe they just need that level of care. I know there was a story of a young woman, 20 years old though. She died in Dharamsala, India, from Sweden. She died of breast cancer at 20. Her father came over, and she passed away, and Lama Zopa, she was living down the road from where she died, and I think they told him about her, and she came to see him once, and then she died. And he wasn't really worried at all. He didn't really do any major things, and I think he said she was fine, or she was okay. And she lived 20 years, and her father came over, and he was really sad, obviously. So she had sponsored a little Rinpoche at the Tibetan Children's Village, across the valley, and the father wanted to go and meet him because he heard all these letters about him and wanted to give him some money, and he must have been 5 at the time. I don't remember which one it was, which Tolku, this extraordinary little child, and the father went to see him, and the child never met the father, but somehow he was endeared to him, and they were walking, he was holding his hand, the father. And he could see the father was really sad, and he turned to the father and he said, Karen, she's fine now. You don't know whether kids make up fantasies, But so I think sometimes when we lose somebody young, it seems so tragic because they're so innocent, and what could they have done, and what could I have done, but it's like we don't know. Like maybe they're on to something so much better that, you know, it's sad for us because of the loss, and we don't really understand, and we don't see where they went. And I also think of people that lose people, it's been 3 years, and time heals, and every year probably it's a little easier for you. Is it?
I don't think so. It changes.
It
Like
changes,
it just
yeah.
changes. You know, there's varying degrees and times. I think if you're open, you know, the healing does happen, but you have to be open to the healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know about time with regard, because it's one of those situations where there's so much timelessness, you know, for like the first 6 months. Every day was so long, but when I looked back, like in month 7, it was like, where was the last 6 months?
Right.
So.
It's also important to know with grief that a healing part of the grief is that the grief ends, and you have to let it end. So not forcing yourself and rushing it, but some people hang on to it forever, and that starts defining them and things like that. So I know grief counseling can be helpful, moving past things, but I know my sister's husband committed suicide, and left her with like a 10 and 12-year-old boy, and you know, it was just a nightmare, a total nightmare for a family. And every year got a little easier, you know, and 5 years was a big plateau, and she, you know, there was like the first year, the second year things like she's like, I'm never gonna be with anyone again, and I'm never gonna this, and the kid, you know, and then the kids grew up, and I mean, and she's in a really different place now, you know. Now it's been I don't know how many years, 12 years, 11 and a half years. And it's a totally different space that we never thought she would be where she's at right now. And thinking, and I remember and I'd say to her, like, I remember at 5 years, and then she was doing much better, and then some little thing would topple her, you know, some little thing would just, and then I'd say to her, hey, but remember 1 year out? I said, remember what we were doing after 1 year? And then she'd say, oh yeah. She's like, oh yeah, that's right. She goes, God. She goes, yeah, it's really different now, you know. So I think sometimes it's good to remember the first month, and remember 6 months later, and remember a year later, and things like that.
Yeah, I have a really great therapist, and we,
that can be helpful.
It does. I mean, I try everything, so.
Well, here's another thing, you might be part of this. So there's somebody that's losing their baby now, and they're in that horrible, raw, black place right now. So my sister got on to a, believe it or not, you know, all these websites, all these support groups. She didn't want to go in person to a group. That wasn't her thing. So online she found Spouses of Suicide. Can you believe SOS? Spouses of Suicide. She went in, and she was the new one. And there were people that had been 8 years out, 10 years out, 5 years out, and they were helping her online with their advice and their wisdom of how they moved through it. Very similar situations, some not similar at all. You know, some of them didn't have kids, some had kids, some were, you know, and they went through, and they went through this phase of somebody said to her, oh, you're in the coulda, woulda, shoulda phase. You know, I should have done this, and I could have done that, and I wouldn't, and had I, and you know, she went through phases. So then she, after she got 5 years out, 6 years, she went on and started to help some of the people that it just happened to them, and they're living in a state of utter shock and disbelief. And so that's another way to give back, is to turn it out from me back into somebody else and think about what they're going through. It can be really part of the healing like that. So let me go on a little bit. So what is freedom? If we're talking about this engaged right now, what is freedom? Nothing more and nothing less than life lived awake. Okay, again, Buddhahood, Buddha means fully awakened being. Life lived awake. And so I mentioned, I don't know if we talked about the exercise here, but Saturday when we did the walking meditation, being present, those of you that were there, people felt lighter, they were happier, it's like, that's life lived awake, where I am present with whatever's coming up for me. It's not separate from me, I am there watching it, observing it, being with it, and noticing, this is painful, I'm uncomfortable now. Oh, this is a good moment, this is easy, this business project, well, went kind of easy, I didn't expect that. I'm really cranky this morning. I just hurt my arm, or whatever's arising, here I am, I'm sad. I don't actually think I can get through the day, I'm just observing that I don't think I can get through the day. And I'm just going to be with it. Because the mind's changing all the time, so that's going to change that thought. So I'm just being there with it. Here's another verse from Togme Sangmo, another verse. All suffering comes from wanting your own happiness. Complete awakening arises from the intention to help others. Therefore, exchange completely your happiness for the suffering of others. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. This is basic tong-len meditation. Giving and taking. Tong-len meditation is a way you can do that. But think about it. Complete awakening arises from the intention to help others. So a nice counter every day is to think about, when I'm unhappy, when I'm squeezed, when I'm tight, when I'm stressed, when I'm not feeling, is what am I thinking about? You have to start to be clear about what am I thinking about. Usually it's focused inward, on me. It doesn't mean you don't do your own work. It doesn't mean you don't do your own internal work, external work, but again, the intention to help others. If you just get that intention going in the morning, and then if you can bring that intention up, get yourself familiar with recalling and reestablishing that intention throughout the day, you will be so much happier. That's what motivates everything that you're doing, the intention to help others. That's what complete awakening arises from. All suffering comes from wanting your own happiness. Just think about it. Is that true? You have to investigate yourself. And please, I ask you to investigate thoroughly everything I'm saying. It has to be your experience. You don't just blind faith, like, okay, she said it must be that way. Check it out in your mind. Is it really like that? Because then you'll be so truly involved in this, in the practice. The practice will become alive for you. You'll be like, yeah, actually it works that way. Okay, so now what's the next step? Now what do I do? So can you exchange completely your happiness for the suffering of others? We're not always ready to do that yet. That's okay. This is an advanced practice. It's hard to do that. Okay. But you can have a thought about it sometimes. Your coworkers, right? A little bit like, you can just kind of think like, this is the situation, I'm moving on, I got it, but I really wish I could change places with them. I wish she wasn't suffering so much like this. I wish it had been me that lost the baby. I can have that thought, that I wish it were me. I wish I could change places with you. Doesn't mean, I have a friend, many, many friends actually, breast cancer. Oh my God, it's like rampant now. Unbelievable, right? Yeah, I'm not going to get the breast cancer because I said, God, I wish it were me. And so, but I had one of my friends recently, a nun, diagnosed, and I just immediately had this thought. I just felt like, oh God, I wish it were me. Why does she have to go through that? It's very powerful for your own mind. It keeps the depression away, the sinking in the mind obsessively, me, myself, and I'm no good, I can't do this, oh, I feel terrible, I feel terrible, I feel terrible. That. Unable to help yourself, unable to reach out. Another antidote to depression is connection, making a connection. I have a girlfriend, chronically depressed in California, very, very severely depressed since the age of 19. She's 55 now. So I don't know if it's going to change for her. Some karma was created, and it's just been this long depression. It's kind of become her. Okay, but it's not really her. I don't believe it's her. But what she does occasionally is, I'm not on Facebook much. I go on to post something for the center generally, right? So she gets me on Facebook and I get a little message on my email, and then I have to go to Facebook to respond, right? And she kind of will like reach out in some way, oh, can you call me? And I phone. She never answers her phone, and she doesn't return any messages. So it's kind of like, you know, she starts to reach out a little bit, but then there's no follow through to really make the connection. So she remains in her own thoughts, stuck in her own thoughts, isolated, you know, I'm depressed. I'll always be depressed. Nothing will help me, not, you know. I've tried various things on Facebook to send her, but, it, you know, it's hard from afar like that. I've talked to her on the phone a few times like that. Yes?
I just thought about a year ago, one of my nephews was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and he was really, really sick.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister, one of my sisters, not his mother, his aunt, has been recently diagnosed with colon cancer. And she recently told me that when my nephew, who was that son, she says when he was sick, I asked, she's a Catholic, so she says, I asked God, why don't I get something like this? I want him to be, he was a new father, newly married, I want him to be okay. Send me something that made him well.
Mm-hmm.
And when she told me that, I was absolutely scared. And Anna actually told her, you should never do that. How can you ask for something? How can you just give up your own life, your own health, your own happiness? I was terrified that she had done that.
Mm. How did she feel?
How does she feel
How
now?
does she feel?
I mean, health-wise?
No, mentally.
Oh.
How did she feel about it?
She hasn't told me how she feels. It's like she doesn't feel that she did anything wrong.
Is she basically happy, do you think?
Yeah, she's happy.
Mhm.
But I was scared.
Mhm.
So now that we're talking about this kind of meditation, I'm starting to feel different about it.
Uh-huh. Again,
I don't know
it's,
if I would ever do it.
right,
but
right. Well, the thing is, and this is why it's not for new people, because people go, what? You know, I don't want somebody's cancer. And at our level, we can't get the other disease from somebody. It would be very
Right,
rare.
right, yeah.
Her cancer is caused by another cause, you know. Now, the thing is, I don't know her, and I don't know her mind. I highly realize beings could probably do that if the condition and the cause is there for that person to have their ailment removed based on the person. So I can't really say. But if it brings her happiness, I can't say the colon cancer comes from having the wish that God give me something. I mean, it may appear like that, but I wouldn't say it necessarily is like that. So normally I don't know anybody that's gotten a disease from saying from doing tong-len meditation or wishing. I don't know of anybody that's done that in all the Buddhist classes I've taught and all the experience of myself doing it. It's really an attitude. It's an attitude. But if she's happy, it's some indication of her wish to really think of others, you know, and it makes her happy. You know,
she
that's,
is a good person.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of living fully awake. It's just accepting whatever's going on and dealing with it, and maybe she'll have a good treatment and things like that. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think necessarily it means you're going to get, it's really an attitude that could I just exchange myself with someone else. And really, if we really consider others, especially those we're having difficulty with, and you try to change places and put yourself in their shoes for an experience, like you said, Doug said he started thinking about the people that have to restructure and they're going to fire people, and what's it like for them? It can't be that pleasant, you know? I mean, there might be one or two of them that's like, yeah, you know, I never liked that guy, and who cares? I mean, there are, you know, we seem to have in the news these CEOs that have these gigantor bonuses, and they don't care and all that, but if you really sat down with them as a human being, they're probably in a system, and this is what they were guaranteed by their contract, and they want it for their family, but they're not really always happy about what happened. There's also confusion of, you know, I saw this documentary about Enron. Did anybody see, you know, some years ago came out. It was a huge scandal what these people did to the people that work for this company, and and greed and things like that created, and they start telling themselves stories that they believe that they were doing the right thing, and then all of a sudden they realize it wasn't the right thing, and it was. So it's I don't think people are necessarily always trying to basically harm others all the time. They're basically trying to get more money a lot of the times and pad themselves, but not necessarily just to harm others. I mean, clearly a couple of them knew that it was like going to topple the whole. I mean, I don't think they thought the whole thing would topple, and it did. Like that. So based on exchange completely your happiness for the suffering of others. So going on what I said before, forget about being happy. Okay. So when you say I want to be happy, you're telling yourself you're not happy. Okay, there's confirmation on that. And what happens is you start looking for something that will make you happy. Okay? So what do? What are some of the things you do when you want to be happy?
One thing.
You want things? Yep. You go shopping. What else do you do?
You eat.
You eat. Yep. Go to the movies. You hang out with friends. You buy something new. You read a good book. You check out a new hobby. Okay, all in this effort to feel happy. Okay, and the harder you try to be happy, the more you reinforce the belief that you are not happy. So you can try to ignore it, but the belief is still there. Okay. Even in close relationships, this goes on. Spending time with a friend, even while helping others and doing other good work, if your attention is on what you are feeling, on what you are getting out of it, then you see these relationships as transactions, okay? Because your focus is how you're feeling, consciously or unconsciously. You're putting yourself first and others second. It's often why we engage in relationships, right? We'll say, oh no, I really love him, but it's like, I'm getting something out of this. This is cool. And that's really, whether we're conscious of it or unconscious, okay? And this approach disconnects you from life, from the totality of your world, okay? So inevitably you end up feeling shortchanged in your relationships with your family, your friends, work. The imbalances ripple out and affect everyone around you and beyond. The transactional mindset of self-interest is the problem of our world, basically. Everybody's in it for their own agenda and moving their own agenda. And that's what's great when you come to Dharma places, because people are really trying to do it in a different way. That's why it feels good in Dharma places. And I remember when I first went to Dharma places, I noticed, first of all, that everybody was really nice there. That was my first impression, I was like, I like this place because everybody's really nice, And then I noticed that it made me nicer. It made me feel nice when I was there. Like I was on good behavior. But I wasn't on any conscious good behavior. It was like an effect it had on me. They were thinking about me, and I kind of, as a natural thing, started bouncing back against them, thinking, oh, how can I help? I'll put the juice out, because that's what they were all doing. It was contagious. So if you were to let go of the pursuit of happiness, okay, what would you do? Okay, what do you think you would do? Just curious.
Think about others.
Think about others. Think about others? Other ideas?
You'd suddenly have a lot of time.
Have a lot of time?
Because now you're not chasing your own tail all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, this goes on to talk about exactly these things, okay? You might pay more attention to others, right? You might accept others for just who they are, right? Okay. Rather than always looking for ways to get them to conform to your idea of how they should be. Who does that? Right? If I can just fix this person, get them to do what I think they should do. I had to be careful. I was joking with Matt tonight. I run centers. That's something I've been doing for 20 years. It's just, I do it like in my sleep now, right? So, I come here to teach, and I try to be on my best behavior, you know, not the director, and I like it because when I go to these other centers, I'm not the director, and sometimes people come in and they go, and I go, oh, I don't live here, I'm just visiting. Like, you need to ask somebody from the center. I'm actually quite good at doing that now. But occasionally, I see things, right, and I just want to, I was talking to Matt about the kitchen faucet or something, and I'll just say, hey, I have an idea. Like, you know, and usually fix it, okay? Let go, get it fixed. No, but I'll say, hey, you know, we did this, like trying to save money. We did this, and maybe you can get money back for it, and like that. So a couple little suggestions and stuff. But it's interesting because I really had to let go some years ago where I was really, you know, I come into a center, I'm like, you should be doing this, and you know, oh, right? It's really difficult. Okay, so you might start. Okay, here's another thing. What would you do with your life, okay, if you let go of the pursuit of happiness? Okay. And here's another thing, if you want to be more dramatic about it. Suppose you were told that no matter what you did, you would never be happy. Something to think about tomorrow when you wake up, or tonight when you go, you know, if you were told you would never be happy, never, what would you do with your life, okay? You might start relating to life itself. Okay, rather than looking to what you get out of it, you might be more willing to engage with what life brings you, with all the ups and downs, rather than always wanting it to be other than it is. This is what, you know, also tong-len can do. It's just something to think about, how we go about our pursuit of happiness. So I am in South India last December. Went to teachings with the Dalai Lama, like Geshe. And it was fantastic. And so I go over, and there's all these major lamas there. And they're in our tradition, and it was just kind of a treasure house of our tradition's major lamas. They were all there, maybe other than a couple. And I bring request letters from Milarepa Center, where I live. Formal request letters with an offering, and then I hand deliver them, and you get to meet with these lamas, and you know, you might have 2 minutes, you might have an hour, depends on their time and what they're doing. And generally I would go in and have some appointment with them, and like many other people, and you come with an offering scarf, a kata, and great. And I please come to Milarepa Center, and Geshe and I did it last year. The year before we went together and went around to different lamas, and this year he was busy at Sayre, but I took some people from this center to meet a couple lamas, and you go around to all these different lamas, and what happens is that halfway through, I noticed that my agenda was interfering with my presence with the lamas. Like, you're sitting with basically a Buddha. But I was so busy making sure that they knew about Milarepa Center, and the requests and all that, like they had to come, and I wanted them to come because it was our program, and I totally lost the present moment with them. That I'm sitting in the presence of some glorious mind that made me feel really blissful, and I love that, and that's really one of my happiest moments. And so I kind of like walked out, and I fortunately got it halfway through, and I went like, I just missed all this. Like, was she trying to tell me something? Like, they went to these couple female lamas who were just amazing, and I was like, I could have just sat there and been with her, but instead I was like, you know. So it's something to think about. It was a really great message for me. It's just like, be. Can you just be for a moment? So it's hard for me to be. Yeah. I'm often like a human doing, right? So it's just something to think about. How do you relate to, how are you engaged with life like that? And so, tong-len is like, you know, take in what you don't want, give away what you do want. Take in what is unpleasant, give away what is pleasant. Take in pain, give away joy. Just ways that turn my attention out. That's another way, is just turning that attention to something else and being present with what is arising, what is going on for people. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to read about this. And so one thing about this practice is, does it really lead to happiness? Not necessarily, but it does help you to understand the suffering and the struggles of others. And whatever ups and downs and joys and pains they encounter, you can be present with them because you know life is not perfect and you don't expect it to be perfect. So it gives you a much more realistic basis to operate your life. And when we're not being realistic, anxiety and depression get going. They get breeding like that. Because I didn't have a realistic understanding of what was going on, so now I'm afraid somebody's going to rob me, and somebody's going to attack me, or I'm not in a safe place, or I'm going to lose my job. These are all just realities that can happen. If you just accept that these things, now, you accept it with your common sense, of course. You don't leave your car unlocked with like, I have $1 million in the trunk, with a sign on it. Be practical. You don't walk in the bad neighborhood late at night, with expensive jewelry showing or something. Doesn't make sense. So you do take care, participating in your life as it goes, but understanding the fundamental basis of reality that's operating. Anyway, I really like these, are great. Any questions so far? Comments, questions?
I have maybe a comment on your comment that you don't enjoy the moment. So a lot of people that take photography, like pictures, they go to a place and they're so focused on taking the best photo, and then they say, wow, I've been there. How was I there? I took a photo, but you didn't see anything.
Right.
And I just remember going on a trip, taking a lot of photos, and then I saw the photo from someone else on the same trip. Say, were we at the same place? Because I did not see what you took the photo of, because I was too focused on my own.
Yeah, it's a really good example.
And then I say, wow, I spent all that time
It's a
and
really
money
good
to
example.
that trip, and I didn't really do the trip. So it's kind of like the same feeling.
I mean, I lead pilgrimages, and the last one was a year ago. I'm going to lead another one. Okay, get ready. We haven't quite decided where we're going to go, but I think it's going to be, could be in 2015. There's some people bugging me. We're debating about Bhutan or Burma.
That's where it was. I was in
The
Bhutan.
two Bs, okay? Or we'll go back to the India, Nepal, Buddhist sites. Anyway, we might do another pilgrimage to benefit Milarepa Center like that. And so I was on it a year ago, and and we had some great people on our pilgrimage, but there were people that were like, and finally I was like, stop, look at the river, are you seeing the river, and it's a different thing when you're looking at it and you're just being with the kids, or you're not so focused on, oh God, that was such a cute photo, and now with the phones and the cell, these digital cameras, you can take a bazillion photos, and then what they did is somebody took a bazillion photos because, who has time to edit them or delete, and then they just sent it out in a massive bundle to everybody. So of like unedited, and I'm like, and some of them were photos of like not even part of our pilgrimage, and I'm like, what do I need, I'm like, could you just send me 10, like the 10 best ones of. So it's something to think of, but not being present with you're behind this lens, and sometimes the camera separates you also from the people that are there. It's different when you put the camera away and you just hang out in their hut, and very different experience than when they know. And you know what it's like when somebody puts a camera up and they're going to take it, and suddenly you're like, posing. How's my hair? Right? Okay, let me go through a few more antidotes, and we're going to do a Vajrasattva practice. You have your sheets on your table. Here's a few things about fear and anxiety. How do I deal with fear? Other antidotes. Be aware and acknowledge your fears. Okay? Think about samsara. Think about the cycle of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Okay? Its nature is suffering. So as long as you're in samsara, we will experience problems. That's its nature. Accepting this helps to decrease fear. Okay? And remember though, it's definitely possible to become free from samsara by practicing the Dharma. So it's not just saying, well, it's always going to be like this. No. But be realistic again. Another antidote to fear is courage. Courage. This is developed by facing your fears, understanding exactly what it is you fear, and asking yourself, is it reasonable to have this fear? Is there anything I can do to prevent this unwanted thing from happening? Is there anything I can do to minimize the chance of it happening? If there's little that can be done, can I learn to accept it and let it go? Does that work with some of your anxieties? What are some of your anxieties? Can anybody care to venture there? Nobody has any anxieties? Why are you here? Are you all depressed? Is that what's going on?
Being judged.
Being judged?
Yeah.
Right. So what can you do about that? What can you do about it? Can you do something about it? Seriously, think about it. Can you do something about it?
Yeah.
She says nothing. What do you think? Go in there.
I think, speaking.
Mm-hmm. How would you speak? How would you do?
Expressing myself at times, I feel I should, and I don't.
Right, and then you
know,
think they
and then I
judge you
think I
because of
should.
that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Or what I say, they'll judge.
Mhm.
Something,
Mhm.
It's a vicious cycle. In
So-
meetings and things like that.
Sure, we all have that, right? If you're in business, So that goes into the 8 worldly dharma, bad reputation. Okay? The 8 worldly dharmas are 4 situations that manipulate us. Okay? We avoid pain. We're basically happy when we feel pleasure and we're unhappy when we experience pain. Pain and pleasure. We're happy when we get something and we're unhappy when we don't get something. Gain and loss. We're happy when we hear nice words about ourselves and we're unhappy when we hear unpleasant. Basically, it's literally translated unhappy sounds about unpleasant sounds about ourselves. Praise and blame. And the last one is you're happy when you feel you have a good reputation, and unhappy when you have a bad reputation. Fame and dishonor. And that's the heaviest. Bad reputation. It's the one that keeps you up at night. Your integrity has been questioned. They are judging you. Like that. So it's something to just notice. So then you say to yourself, okay, so did I speak in an appropriate way? Did I express what I needed to express? And sometimes I will express something in a mistaken way because I'm a human being. And you know what? That's the best I can do. And these are ways that and if they want to judge me, okay. Some of us are more sensitive than others. Right? Some people could care less. So what? They think I'm a jerk.
Yeah.
So they think I'm a terrible center director. Who cares? Right? I don't think that. I get upset. I have given my lifeblood to this center, But no, really, you don't have to get that, you can think like, okay, so they think that. You can sometimes discuss nicely with somebody. I heard that you had a problem. Sometimes I've done that where there's gossip started or some kind of, and I actually found the source and went and, called someone once and I said, actually I heard that you were having a problem with me doing this. And I just wondered, could we just talk directly about it and I'll let you know why I was doing that. Because whatever they told you, that's not what's going on. Like you got misinformation and that can deflect stuff, but you have to have a good intention when you do it, not kind of like, I'm going to tell you how it's going to be, Because I just really had it was kind of like, I really want to cut this stuff. And so I said, the next time if you have a question about it, why don't you just call me? And I'll tell you what's going on. And maybe you can be involved in it and be happy to have you involved and get your input. And so I think just checking that, I don't know if that helps to deflect. It's really helpful to figure out, is it reasonable to have the fear? I find that really, really helpful. Because some of them are like you go, well, it's just, some of us are free-floating anxiety, or you just get worried. Another thing we do in Buddhism is cultivate the practice of taking refuge, alleviates fear. Cultivate the practice of taking refuge. Some of you have taken refuge. Refuge is a ceremony they actually have now to basically to acknowledge that Buddhism is your path. Some people call it a conversion ceremony. I don't really think of it. I just think of like you're acknowledging this is my path. There's a ceremony you go through. You can get a refuge name, and you kind of acknowledge this is the beginning of this deepening of my Buddhist path, and I'm a Buddhist, like that. Okay, and you take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And the Buddha is free of all fears, omniscient, all-knowing, and basically, has a fully manifest mind of loving kindness, infinite goodness, compassion, wisdom, peace. Who wouldn't want to take refuge in that? Refuge is where I seek support from that as a safe place for me. That's safe because the Buddha is omniscient, the Buddha knows whatever is best for me to do to free me from my suffering and my fears. Yeah. And then because we don't have the karma to see the Buddha, that's why these beings manifest. Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. That's why the Guru manifests, is an external manifestation, something we can connect with that represents the Buddha. My own personal experience is from seeking advice from them, reasoned advice, of checking how the advice went when I followed it, it totally deepened my faith that there's no question. No question they've shortcutted me to enlightenment. I have no question in my mind. But it took time to check. I checked an easy little question I asked Rinpoche once. I followed the advice, liked the result, checked another thing, kept taking the advice, totally freeing my mind in many ways. I mean, my mind's not very free, but I'm just saying, totally helping me. No question in my mind. But I checked. I didn't just kind of like, okay, well, he said that. I kind of looked at the result. Wow, I would never have known to do that. I would never have thought of that. Rinpoche suggested something. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll try that. So now it's easy to follow his advice. Because I have all that reasoned faith from before. So refuge is very powerful. Really see. Because look at what we take refuge in. What do you take refuge in? When you get in trouble, when you're hurting, when you're in pain, what do? It's kind of like what we were just saying before. You go to the movies, and you read a book, and you go to your family and friends, and you hang out, and you eat, and that's what we do. You take refuge. They're temporary, little Band-Aid on the hemorrhage. Feels good for temporarily. There's no problem with having little breaks and stuff. Go to a Red Sox game, right? Okay, no Buddhists, I know, they won't go.
I do.
Okay, good. Good, we'll go. Great.
A lot of Dharma in baseball.
Yeah. So, absolutely. But you have to think about, is it infallible? Does it really free me from suffering, really help my mind? One time, some years ago, I was flying from California back to the Philadelphia where I grew up, visit my family, and just oddly enough, my ticket got canceled. I called to confirm, and they're like, "Oh no, your reservation's been canceled." And I said, "Well, who canceled it?" And they said, whatever it was canceled." So I said, so I discussed for them a while, and they put the reservation back in. She said, "Okay, I don't know." And I said, "Look, I didn't cancel it. So I put the reservation back in. And they let it at the same rate, whatever it had been paid for. Okay. Okay, great. So then I called like a week later about the seat or something. It had been canceled again. Something, So I was like, is this a message? I should be on the plane? Like, is there some... So I went to one of my lamas who was living in California at the time, Reba Rinpoche, amazing lama. And I went to him and I was a little concerned, and I said, I told him what happened, and I said, is there some kind of life obstacle, or should I not be on the flight? And he looked at me and he said, if you have proper refuge, it doesn't matter if the plane crashes. And I thought, well, it matters to my mother. I don't know about me, but it really gave me something. I was like, oh, okay, Like I really was like, he's right. Doesn't matter. Like when the plane is crashing, where's your mind going to be? Is it going to be saying in English, caca? It's going to be saying that? Think about it. Because if that's what's on your mind when you're dying, you probably come back as a fly. Because flies love caca, right? But think, I'm just giving you, no, seriously, it's very careful what is on your mind. What is on your mind? And so when there's an emergency, are there mantras coming out of your mouth, or is it something else? Is the mind in a dark, twisted space, or is it kind of like, can I help other people? Or is there something like, what can I practically do to help other people? Or think about fears and worries. Think about the law of cause and effect. Think about karma. Sometimes chronic depression in the mind, I think with my friend, it's just a previous imprint from a past life. She's got some heavy, people that are chronically ill in this life from anything, and they won't get rid of it. I've known some people long, 20 years, really ill, and obviously some heavy past life thing, and they're purifying it. They're purifying it. It's the best way to think about. Okay, we're running out of time because I want to do some Vajrasattva meditation. The ultimate fear is death, is our death. If you really practice the death meditation over and over, you get a sense that this is inevitable, this is going to happen. Right?
Is there anything wrong with not being feared of death?
Of not having a fear of death?
Yeah.
No, that would be great. I think that'd be quite spacious. Doesn't mean that you want to die, that you bring it on. The other thing is, some people do you have a ruminating mind? Round and round and round. Okay, sometimes you can't stop that, okay? Say mantras. Just say mantras. Launch into a mantra. Just get some other, it's like you're throwing a wrench into the gears. You just need to stop it. Or just meditate. So the mind's happening, try to do some other meditation. Just let it wash away, wash away, wash away. Sometimes that's all you can do. Sometimes you can just take out prayers and start reading a sutra or some prayers. Very powerful. Okay, but it's not garbage in the TV and the magazine. It's like get out a sutra and it changes the mind. It does something to your mind. It's a very virtuous thing to do. So it leaves a really powerful imprint on the mind and will sometimes short circuit the worry round and round. Can you keep a balance as well? Not excessive worrying and not just like irresponsibility. Find that balance like that. Let me just going to go back a little bit into antidotes to depression. We talked about some of these. In depression, examine what your mind is saying and correct what is not realistic. Okay? This is in the type of depression that is like, I'm not good enough, I'm hopeless, I'm ugly, nobody loves me, I never do anything right. This inferiority that comes from, again, kind of self-pity, like that. Depression involves repetitive self-critical thoughts. Okay, and what you're going to do is give it other equal airtime to the positive thoughts. Okay. If you say nobody, I don't know if anybody, what are some of your negative critical thoughts? Anybody care to voice something?
I'll never do anything right and no one will care for me.
Right. So, true? Is that true?
No.
It's not true. So you kind of have to, it's good you can laugh at it, but you really have to go in there, come on, hello?
Or I don't deserve this. I don't deserve things I have.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? You worked for them, you have good karma, it's also a matter of how much do I appreciate them, and do I take things for granted, and and am I constantly wanting more? That's one thing, but why not? Unless we're kind of out of balance with it, but you really have to check, is it reasonable what I'm saying? That I never do anything, come on. So you have to give equal airtime. You have to start replacing with, then you have the negative thought, then you have to have a positive one that comes in and go, okay, granted, I acknowledge that thought, and actually I do some things well. I do some things well. Yeah, actually I do. In a balanced way. Absolutely. I do deserve some things because I work hard. I work really hard. Why can't I have a little reward? Nothing wrong with that. So a lot of this is cultivating acceptance, love, and compassion for ourselves. Ooh, what about that? Cultivating acceptance, love, and compassion for ourselves. You have to do that. Okay? Here's another thing. Consciously bring to mind and feel joyful about the things you have going for you. Good qualities, good people around you, your potential to change your mind, to become more living and caring, to help others, to become enlightened. Everyone in this room has that potential. All of those things. Okay? Sometimes you just need to focus on them. We choose to focus on something else. Sometimes you really have to focus on it. I have this ability to get enlightened. I have an ability to help people. You know, I took myself to Kurukulla Center. Fantastic. Fantastic. It's Friday night. It's #1 date night, right? I had a friend always used to say, it's #1 date night, Friday night. I was always too tired Friday night. Saturday night was, for me, that was, okay. Even the fact, okay, here's something to rejoice in. Even the fact that you're alive, that you're able to walk, to see, to talk, that you have 2 legs, that you have a job. All these, there's so many things you could revel in about your life. You have to start making some imprints of that. Redirecting. And just notice I'm over here and then go, thanks very much. Yep, I understand, I see that. Redirecting. You can also think about people who are much worse off than you. Again, that's precious human rebirth, what we just said. We can go into that. Think about the nature of samsara. We've talked about that. Think about the nature of the mind. That's not the nature of your mind, is depression. Okay? Volunteer. Huge antidote to depression. Volunteer, get involved and help somebody else. It's amazing. It's really amazing. You had a question right there.
No, I was just thinking about the universe. It doesn't really care what's going on Earth, does it?
The universe?
Yeah.
How do you mean the universe? Or
Like whatever we do with our worries or mind, thinking, if you go, over the Earth and look, who cares?
Right.
Out there, the universe
Right.
is
Well, out there, what's kind of neat, instead of who cares, because I think who cares
Nobody.
is us. And enlightened beings certainly care. Bodhisattvas care. Right? Many people care. Right? But I think what's helpful, I think what you're getting at is perspective. So like I live at Milarepa Center. It's a gorgeous place. You must come there, okay? Please come. And you can check out our website, milarepacenter.org. It's a rural center, and when it's clear, the stars are extraordinary. Okay, you're not going to see that in Medford, I hate to break it to you. But it's like full-on Milky Way, everything. And sometimes I love to go out, and you see shooting stars, and you realize you're just a little blip. So it puts it in perspective of my drama, my chronic depression, for instance, my anxiety. You get maybe 80 years here, and then you're on to something else. And we had all these other dramas in the past, we don't remember any of them. So why am I making it so chronically negative? Again, why not just enjoy the dance and prance through it with as much joy as you can by participating in it, by being awake, being present in it, of what this incredible adventure that's unfolding. It's extraordinary. So I think, are you talking a little bit more like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. I think it's a neat point. So can you please look at your Vajrasattva pages? I don't have a page. Can you just grab me a prayer book and a page? Sorry, we're a little out of time here, but we're just going to hang with me. We're going to do this very shortly. Thank you so much. What I want you to do is if you look at the, This is the wrong mantra. Okay, never mind. I wonder why he printed these.
I know, this is what he gave me when I asked him for it.
Okay, this is the wrong,
There's two, yeah. There's actually two.
not the Haruka Vajrasattva mantra, we don't want that one.
Which one do you want, sorry?
Regular Vajrasattva, is there that, or is that circulating around?
No.
It all says Haruka Vajrasattva.
One says solitary?
Yeah, this is the one that we did last time, the solitary.
Okay, I'm looking for this, can somebody just hand me one of those?
Yeah,
The solitary, if there's enough
We
to
can share
go around
these.
of the solitary. Thank you very much. Yes, solitary Vajrasattva, thank you. Can everybody get a solitary Vajrasattva mantra page? And the other ones just leave here, they're not really appropriate. So solitary Vajrasattva mantra.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Does everybody have one? Solitary Vajrasattva mantra? Do you have it in the back there?
Yes.
Behind? Yeah, you got one, great. Okay, great. What I want you to do is to just mark it up for a minute. Okay, let's just go through the mantra for a second. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya. Everybody following?
Yeah.
Okay. Vajrasattva, okay, now what I want you to do is the TV, the Tibetans can't pronounce V's. Okay, so that is pronounced Teno Pa, and then Tita. So the SH is silent, so you can cross through the SH. So it's like Tita, and then the Drido is like Dido. But I don't pronounce it right. The DR in Tibetan is like Dri. Okay? So it's not like a Dri, it's like a very soft R. So a lot of people say Dido, Dido. Okay? Me Bava. Okay, the next word, Sutto, is Suttokayo. So take the SH and make a KA there. Suttokayo. Thanks, Matt. Suttokayo. And then ME, when there's an E on the end of a word, it's like me, A. Okay? Suttokayo me bava. The next word is supo, and it's kayo again, so the SH is KA. Supokayo me bava. And if you go to the next line where it says Sidim me prayatsa is how that's pronounced, not cha. Prayatsa. And you go to the next line where it says that chitam is actually, oh wait, sorry, sarva karma su, CH is like tsa, tsame, and then sitam, instead of chitam. Sitam shriyam kurukulla. Okay, the rest is pretty clear. Okay, and this mantra again, just to read for a second. You, Vajrasattva, have generated the holy mind, bodhicitta, according to your pledge. Your holy mind is enriched with the simultaneous holy actions of releasing transmigratory beings from samsara. And whatever happens in my life, happiness or suffering, good or bad, with a pleased holy mind, never give up a please guide me. Please stabilize all happiness, including the happiness of the upper realms, actualize all actions, and sublime and common realizations, and please make the glory of the five wisdoms abide in my heart. Michael, do you have a sheet? Do you know this by heart? You got it.
I don't know, I just was not.
Okay, but you have a sheet, you have the
I do.
solitary Vajrasattva?
I do, yeah.
Did you mark it up with the,
I did not, I was
to pronounce it well?
not participating.
That's okay, that, just so that you know how to pronounce it if you, unless you know it, I don't know.
I do not know that,
Okay,
sorry.
that's okay.
What does Vajrasattva mean?
Vajrasattva is an aspect of the Buddha that brings us purification. Vajra is like a dorje. It's a little thunderbolt that you use with the bell.
Yeah.
And so that represents the diamond heart indestructible means that you need to get enlightened of, like compassion, bodhicitta. So it's kind of indestructible nature of this being, like that. So we're going to just do a quick practice because we're out of time. And I'm just going to have you visualize, but it's done with the 4 opponent powers. It's a very powerful meditation. when you can't short circuit your anxiety, depression, this is really, really powerful practice to do. Once you learn it, Rinpoche says you're crazy not to do it every night. Okay, you can recite 21 mantras. It's really helpful to learn the long mantra. It's very powerful. It's a long mantra, it takes time, but it's very powerful to learn it like that. And Sharon has a little recording I made this morning. Maybe she can copy that for people or something like that, if people want to know how to pronounce. Okay, so let's just sit comfortably. And I'll tell you when you need to look at the mantra. You don't need to look at it yet. When you're learning a mantra, you do a little bit of the visualization, okay? And then you look back at the mantra and try to recite it out loud. When you recite in a group, you do need to say something so the air leaves your mouth, the mantra correctly, as much as you can, but not too loud to disturb the person next to you, okay? So just lightly close your eyes and bring to mind an activity you have done either recently or in the past, some negativity you have done that you have tremendous regret about. And try to bring up that feeling of regret as strongly as you can. This is the first opponent power. Sometimes they're in a different order, but the power of regret. So in order to have something to purify, we need to experience a very strong sense of regret for something. We're just going to go through this more quickly. The second opponent power is the power of refuge. So visualize over top the crown of your head, this Vajrasattva, a beautiful, radiant, crystal being, looks like a Buddha, seated in the full lotus position. His arms are crossed at his heart. The left holds a bell and the right holds a dorje, representing method and wisdom, bodhicitta and emptiness. So it shows he has transcendence and has actualized these. He's draped in beautiful silks and adorned with beautiful jewels, a peaceful, loving smile on his face. He's about 6 inches in height, facing the same direction as you, over top your crown. And just as best as you can, feel that he is there. Or you can imagine a radiant crystal there that represents him in the nature of light. Think if he is someone you could take refuge in that would protect you from more suffering. And if you can, from your heart, take refuge in Vajrasattva. He is very happy to help us. And the third opponent power is the power of the remedy. We're going to do some mantras with the visualization. There's 4 different visualizations. The first purifies negativities done with the body, washing all the negativities down and out for all the lower openings of our body. Second visualization, all the negativities go down and then they're washed all the way back up, leaving us through the upper openings of our body, purifying negativities done with our speech. The third visualization, the light comes down from Vajrasattva through our crown. It goes right to our heart center where there is a constricted knot of our selfishness that is completely eliminated. And the fourth visualization, and all the light and nectar is coming down from Vajrasattva's heart, down through the crown of our head. So washing everything down, then washing everything down and back up, then going to the heart center. And the fourth visualization, and the third one purifies negativities done with the mind. And the fourth purifies subtle obscurations to omniscience. And you can visualize all three visualizations as best as you can simultaneously. It's a little bit harder. So we're going to just recite some mantras, and you can try any of those visualizations you would like. We'll recite 4 mantras, so this way you can try one for each one. Okay? And just do the best you can. So what happens is that Vajrasattva's heart is a little moon disk lying flat, and around the edge of the moon is his 100-syllable mantra standing upright like a strand of radiant pearls. And in the middle of the moon is his seed syllable Hung, H-U-N-G, standing upright in the nature of light. And light and nectar begins to pour forth from these, filling his entire body and cascading out through every pore of his body and descending down through our crown like a radiant waterfall of purifying nectar. So if you can, recite some of the mantra together, and then you can alternate to the visualization. Om Vajrasattva Sammaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dinopa Dida Dido Me Bhava Sutto Kayo Me Bhava Suppo Kayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mut Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Sammaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dinopa Tida Dido Me Bhava Sutto Kayo Me Bhava Suppo Kayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mut Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Sammaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dinopa Tida Dido Me Bhava Sutto Kayo Me Bhava Suppo Kayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mut Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Sammaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dinopa Dida Dido Me Bhava Sutto Kayo Me Bhava Suppo Kayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Susame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mut Vajra Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe. So the fourth opponent power is the power of resolution. So make a determination to refrain from doing whatever negativity you are focused on for a realistic time period. So if you say, I'll never get angry again, it's not realistic. If you say, I won't get angry for the next 5 minutes, and you keep it, it's much more powerful in creating a new positive pattern. So think, I will not commit this negativity from now until. Vajrasattva is very pleased with our practice and says, child of the essence, all your negativities and degenerated vows are now all completely purified. Just feel that you have definitely purified something. Vajrasattva is very happy with our practice, and slowly from the edges into the center dissolves into a radiant crystal drop. Imagine this drop comes to our crown, slowly melting into us. And feel all the blessings of Vajrasattva's holy body, holy speech, and holy mind. So in conclusion, let's dedicate any positive energy we've created from doing this practice and from this evening. All of our merit, let's invest it in our being able to do this practice well and apply the other antidotes as best as we can to counter anxiety and depression, to make sure we can set up a consistent practice that will further us along the path to full awakening, so we can then be completely unlimited in helping to lead all other beings to full enlightenment as well. So we're going to read a prayer from Master Shantideva to conclude. And it is on page 246 in the Gold Prayer Book. So if everybody could grab a copy or share a copy. And let's just send this out to the universe. And you can keep those Vajrasattva pages. Feel free to take this home. But it's nice if they're going to get some more books here. A little pocket guide, Vajrasattva pocket guide. Then you have the practice with you. And it's very helpful. You can also find it online, I'm sure. Like that. Let's send this dedication out to the planet, all the beings. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. The forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So in conclusion, I'd like to dedicate to all the beings on the planet who need additional healing and help for the great flourishing of our centers, and for Geshe Tenli's long life and perfect health, and for all of you to be happy and to really be able to counter your anxiety and depression. and for peace on the planet, to dedicate to that. So thank you very much. I've really enjoyed being here, and hope to come back. I really hope you can visit us at Milarepa Center. We also have a work-study program that starts in June. You can apply for on our website now if anybody's interested. And do come and visit us. And do come back and help Kurukulla Center. They need a lot of help, so it's a fantastic center. And it's been established for a great many years, so it's really fantastic that it's here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Amy, on behalf of the centre. We really enjoyed your visit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your help.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone. This is on behalf of the group.
Thank you, Angie. Let's see. You're back. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. It's so nice to see you not at the tape machine all the time. You did that for so many years. Thank you very much. I look forward